my last stop on this journey. I gotta find me a medical oncologist if I'm gonna do this chemo thing. And I thought about it, and I told my family, I said, I'm not gonna do this chemo. This, I don't see no reason for me to do this.
She was going to refuse to go to chemo, and she tried to cop a deal with me. If I stopped smoking, she'd stop chemo. It wasn't a deal. You going to chemo, and I'm not going to stop smoking till I get ready to.
Chemo was difficult. I couldn't work because of the germs. Couldn't do nothing. Everything, you gotta be careful. Germs, germs, germs.
And when it came time, for her to actually go through chemo, I ended up getting a job in Baltimore. And she told me, I felt horrible because I felt like, you know, I got this job and now I'm going to leave at one of the most important parts of her life. And, she told me, like, listen, this is a great opportunity. You're striving to be, a filmmaker. You need to go down there. Like, I'm going to be okay. You need to go.
The initial treatment of chemo was the worst. It was red, and I couldn't understand how could you put poison in my body, but I can't touch that bag because it's poison. And I still don't understand the concept of the treatments, but it was really hard.
One of the challenges of going through the chemo was that it, it affected me a lot physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it all overlapped. Like physically, I just felt big. I was gaining weight. I was on steroids because they had me on steroids. And I started not even wanting to look in the mirror. Then not only was I picking up weight, my facial face started getting dark. My nails was getting dark. I lost my toenails was getting dark. Everything, and I got to the point I didn't want to go outside.
It was times that Qiyana, I have emotional breakdowns, and I didn't know what to do. So I had to call my mother and my sister, anybody that I could think that will help her go through it, because I know it was emotional for her because it was emotionally for me. Qiyana always treasure her hair, and to lose all her hair, and
When I got a picture text from her, showing me that all her hair was gone, it was just another factor to making me accept the fact that, she really was going through this.
She went away to Virginia. Then I just got a picture mail. I was excited because it was from her. And to open it up and see her with no hair, it really just had me like sitting in the bed, sleeping, like didn't want to associate with anyone. I just couldn't imagine her going through what she went through.
It made me think about life different. Like I felt real bad because when she sent the picture, I was like, "What is that? What's going on with her?" And my mother had to explain it to me.
In my family, hair is a big thing. For me, growing up, I had always had every hairstyle it was. One of my good friends is a hairstylist, so it was like, okay, what are you going to do to your hair now? I sat there and let my hair fall out in my hands when I would rub it. So losing that was a big thing for me. I started praying to God, and He just showed me some things that all of that is outside things, but He showed me that He looks at the heart, so it matters what's in the heart. So I started saying I can go outside now and not be ashamed. I went on trips everywhere, South Carolina, Vegas, and I had a good time, and I started enjoying my bald head, and I embraced it.
She really, with her hair being bald, she really she wore it, man. I mean, she wore it. I mean, we went away to Vegas, Las Vegas, in the summertime, and all I can remember is, she had a wig on, and because it was an off week for her treatment, and all I can remember is us walking in the heat, and we'll be sweating, and all I remember her, doing is saying, "Man, I am just so hot," and she would just rip her wig off right in the middle of the sidewalk while we were walking, and people were like looking, like, "Oh my God, did she just take her wig off?" And she would just like walk with her wig in her hand with her bald head, and like it was nothing, And she actually did it a couple of times, and it looked like she freaked a couple of people out, but we had a great time. We had a great time.
She wore her head proud, and I would take my hand and I would rub her head all the time, and I always put my hand on her head. And it really wasn't a big deal, because once she started losing her hair, she really started favoring me, because we both had short hair. So it didn't matter. I just would say, "You look like me now." So
I basically did majority of her visits with her. It all, God made it. He worked it out for us. My days off, it was a day for her chemo. I was right there with her, watching them put the port on her, all the hearing about lip nodes. There's a lot of things I didn't know about. But once Qiyana was diagnosed with it, I learned a lot.
I didn't understand what was going on. She just was laying in the chair with stuff going through her body. So it just was like, okay. And she was fine. I tried to stay from home much as possible. Like, I work all the time, wouldn't come home till like nighttime, she'd be asleep. So I wouldn't have to deal with, family, seeing her go through her breakdowns, and my mother.
Then I started having these out-of-body experience. Everything what happened to her, I felt it. Like, she developed a sinus problem because of the chemo. The next day I wake up, I can't breathe. I develop a sinus problem, but I don't have a sinus problem. So a lot of things that she went through, I experienced it with her. And I used to just sit there and wish that I could take the chemo. I could have the cancer and not my child. Because the worst thing you can, to me, was to see my child sick, and it was nothing I can do for her.
During my whole treatment experience, going through treatment, I had to get financial support from my family. I ran out of savings. I wasn't getting a paycheck. My job, there was no check to come through for me. I felt as if I was being a burden on my family. My mother was out of work. I said enough is enough, and I got up one day, or it was a week, it was an off week from treatment, and I said I was going to social services. And I took everything I needed, and I got on a train from Newark and went to Trenton. And I had to go to Trenton because I lived in Mercer County. And I said, somebody is going to help me out. And then when I was in the hospital, they had introduced me to the social worker who told me about cancer care. And they did come through and give me some money on the deductibles that I had to pay for my medication. But that was only $150. I needed something else. I needed more help with my rent. Because I was still, even though I was still living with my mom, I couldn't afford to move from my home completely. Like, my body was out of my apartment, but I still had rent to pay. All my furniture was still in my home. I still had utilities to pay. I still had the water bill. And I went to social services to get some assistance. Growing up, I never was a sick child or whatever. I probably went to the doctors only once a year for follow-ups and stuff. And then in 2007, I went to the doctors more times than I went in my whole life. Then I had got to the point where, and I think in like March or April, I said, you know what? This chemo is really getting on my nerves. I don't want to do it no more. I'm not going to tell my family because they're going to try to encourage me to go ahead and do it. I said, God, I already had saw everything. I done did everything I wanted to do. And what's the use of living? I might can't even have kids to enjoy, so what's the need for me to live? And then it was Mother's Day, May of 2007. My dad and my stepmother told me they was expecting a baby. And I had just asked God to give me a sign, any reason that he thought, one, that I should live, and two, that I should finish this chemo. What did I have to finish this chemo for? If I was going to die, just let me die.
My family helped me raise her, and my family, close friends, they help us through this chemo because every day in the beginning after the first surgery, from sun up to sun up again, I had a house full of support from my family and close friends. And going through something like that, that's when you find out how much support you have, and you really do need it.
It was an inexperience.